It may be challenging to predict the future. It shouldn't be that hard to predict the present. If we can think in terms of a normal trend line, perhaps for the market, or a level which represents fair value, and then the fact that the market oscillates around it, then clearly it's very important to know where in that oscillating pattern we are. Because if this is fair value, and we're here, then clearly the expected value, or the expected performance from here should be lower than the historic average. And it's harder to make money than it historically has been, and easier to lose money. Whereas if we're buying here when prices are depressed, then the expected value is higher than the historic average, and it's easier to make money and harder to lose. So it makes a profound difference, and I think it's extremely important that we figure it out. We don't know where we're going, but where we are has implications for where we're probably going eventually. Now, the word eventually is very important, because if I tell you that the market is high in its cycle and is overpriced, one of the most important things for you to realize is that overpriced and going down tomorrow are not synonymous. And so if you think about the market fluctuating this way, around fair value, then when it goes above the line, it's overpriced. When it goes higher, it's more overpriced. Higher, more overpriced. And markets which are overpriced tend to become more overpriced before eventually they reach a top and turn down. So it's a big mistake to think that overpriced and going down tomorrow are synonymous. You can say that's overpriced, you can sell it, and it goes up another 20%. You feel like an idiot, and you get fired by half your clients. But that doesn't mean that it was wrong. All you can do in this world is do what's right. You can't necessarily do what's going to work tomorrow. When I started at Wharton 55 years ago this month, and the first lesson I remember learning at Wharton was that you can't tell the quality of a decision from the outcome. Now, this is counterintuitive and, in fact, perplexing. And most people who are not analytical or insightful would say, well, of course you can. Good decisions work, bad decisions fail. But the truth of the matter is that in the world, there are a lot of things that are unpredictable and random, and as a result, good decisions fail all the time, and bad decisions succeed all the time. And we all know people, we say, oh, he was right for the wrong reason, or he was lucky, or he was unlucky. And so you can't think of the world as a place where good decision, good outcome. Bad decision, bad outcome. It doesn't work that way. You know, Richard Feynman, the physicist, said that physics would be much harder if electrons had feelings. And the truth is that markets, there is no such thing as a market. There's no place. It might be a building or it might be virtual. What is a market? It's a bunch of people who buy and sell. And those people do have feelings. And so they don't always act in a way which is predictable. They don't always act in a way which is right. Quotes from Peter Bernstein, who was a great market observer and sage. And he said, the future is not ours to know, but it helps to know that being wrong is inevitable and normal, not some terrible tragedy, not some awful failing in reasoning, not even bad luck in most instances. Being wrong comes with the franchise of an activity whose outcome depends on an unknown future. Ted Williams got 2 hits on every 5 trips, and he was the best in history. Nobody gets sick 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, and it's the same in investing. None of us get it right all the time. All we can do is have a better batting average than others. If you have a better batting average, then you'll be a superior investor.
You prompted me to think a little bit about your notion of being aggressive or defensive in different kinds of market situations. You talk about that as something you that governs a lot of how. Could you explain a little bit?
Well, I really think that the most important single decision for what I call the medium term in investing is whether it to be more aggressive or more defensive at a point in time. Now, I'm not talking about the short term, like the next day, week, or month. And I'm not talking about the long term, like 30 years, when you can ignore the interim fluctuations. I'm talking about 2, 3, 5 years. If you're positioning your portfolio today for the next 3 years, I think the most important question is whether it should be an aggressive portfolio or a defensive portfolio. And it's not stocks versus bonds, high quality versus low quality, growth stocks versus value stocks, US stocks versus foreign stocks, developed world stocks versus emerging stocks, large companies versus small. The most important question is offense or defense. If you have an aggressive portfolio in a period when defense was called for, you'll get chewed up. And it doesn't matter how you answered all those other questions. And if you have an aggressive portfolio at a time when it turns out that aggressiveness was propitious, it doesn't matter how you answered those questions either. You'll be successful. So I really believe that that's the key. Let me talk about it in another direction now. I believe that every investor, myself included, every day faces 2 risks. I call them the twin risks. What are they? The first one is obvious. It's the risk of losing money. The second one is a little more subtle. It's the risk of missing opportunities. Now, if you say to me, I want to be absolutely sure that I don't lose any money, then I'll say, okay, we'll put you all in T-bills. You can't lose any money, but you miss every opportunity. If you say, I want to be 100% sure I don't miss any of the opportunities, then I say, okay, no T-bills for you. We'll put you all in risk assets, and you will be 100% exposed to the risk of losing money. So you can eliminate one, but it puts you firmly in the crosshairs of the other, or you can compromise on the 2. And most people, what do they say? Well, I don't want, I don't want to lose any money, but on the other hand, I don't want to miss all the opportunities. So I'm going to do some of each. I'm going to balance aggressiveness and defensiveness. I'm going to balance worrying about avoiding losing money and worrying about missing opportunities. And that's the right thing to do. All one or all the other makes absolutely no sense. Okay, manage the 2 risks. Balance them. In what proportion? That's the next question. So in July of 17, I wrote a memo advising some caution, and some guy on TV says, that's it, Howard Marks says it's time to get out. And when I ran into him the next time, I said there's only 2 things I would never say. Get out, and it's time. Because I am never that certain. It's not black or white. And when you go on the TV shows, as I do sometimes, they want you to say buy or sell, in or out. But it's not black or white. It's how you balance. Mm-hmm. And the way I think about it is there's a speedometer, like on the dashboard of your car, and it goes from 0 to 100. And 0 is all cash. And 100 is fully invested in risky securities and perhaps using margin or leverage. And the question is, where should you be in between? And most people say, I want to make some money, so I'm going to invest. And they try to think about whether they should buy Apple or Amazon. But they missed a step. The first step that everybody who considers investing should take is to say, from 0 to 100, who am I? Given my age, my financial position, my income, my requirements, my dependents, my psyche, where should I normally be? If you're young, if you have a great career ahead, if you're making more money than you need, if you have no dependents, and if you make a mistake in investing, you have decades more to make it right, then you can be an 80 or a 90. If you're approaching retirement and you have a dependent spouse and you're not going to be earning your income anymore from your job, and if you are concerned about your ability to live with the emotional impact of fluctuations, then you might be a 30. So every person should perform serious introspection and figure out where they should be. And the emotional content is extremely important, because the one thing you can't do in investing is you can't do the right thing if you can't stand the pain. Mm-hmm. And everything that happens emotionally conspires to make us make mistakes. You must figure out whether you can live with the emotional ups and downs, and if you can't, there are things you can do. You can turn your money over to other people to manage. There are ways to put your investing on autopilot.
Most people to do, they want to follow the herd, don't they?
Well, they want to follow the herd, but the herd is usually wrong.
Yeah.
And in investing, there's something called contrarian behavior, and all the great investors are by definition contrarian. In order to have a great investment result, what do you have to do? You have to buy when everybody else is selling and prices are low. You have to get out when everybody's buying and prices are high. You have to avoid the things that everybody loves and has bid up, and you have to buy the things that everybody hates and have permitted to drop like a stone. You have to do the opposite. But it's not easy. And Dave Swenson, who runs the endowment at Yale, says in his book that superior investing requires the adoption of uncomfortably idiosyncratic positions. And those two words are fabulous. Because if you want to be a superior investor, you must invest differently from the herd. You must invest idiosyncratically. But by definition, idiosyncratic positions are uncomfortable. Why? Because the market's going like this. Every stock is getting more valuable every day. You say it's overpriced, you get out, it continues higher. Everybody else is making money, telling you what an idiot you are to get out. Overpriced assets, general rule, overpriced assets become more overpriced. And you have to be able to live with that. And it's uncomfortable, because there is no alternative.
Mm-hmm. And those 7 words that people should know about
the 7 worst words
much.
In the world: too much money chasing too few deals. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while we see this at the height of cycles when money is trying to get into risk asset classes, and people are ignoring risk and riding high on eagerness, and an auction takes place. Every transaction in a marketplace is an auction transaction. When we see the auction getting hot, when there's too much money in the hands of would-be suppliers of money, and they're too eager to put it out, then the auction goes too far, and the price goes too high, which means that the prospective return is too low, and the risk is elevated.
But it's different this time.
Well, and there are the 4 worst words in the world. The 4 worst words in the world are "it's different this time." And what it means is the old rules don't apply. I told you that the average PE on a stock, price earnings ratio on a stock since World War II, has been 16. And in 2000, it was 32. And if you said to somebody who was a tech stock aficionado at that time, well, aren't you scared about the elevated PE ratio on the stocks? What about the old rules? Mm-hmm. And they say, no, you're wrong. It's different this time. The old rules don't apply, because the internet's going to change the world, and history is irrelevant. And guess what? The internet changed the world, but 99% of the stocks disappeared. And it turns out that history did apply. So when you hear somebody say, "this time it's different," hold on to your wallet.